Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective. I'm Mark Billingsley, Chairman of the Shelby County Board of Commissioners in Memphis, Tennessee. And we are really pleased today to have Jim Holt, President and CEO of the Memphis in May International Festival with us. If you're not familiar with the Memphis in May International Festival, you just don't live in our area. I mean, it is a worldwide event, Jim. Um, I have got so many amazing memories year to year and event to event, from the barbecue contest to our days of well, our just immediate past days of the concerts on the river, the cultural events that you've put on with Memphis in May. We were a little disappointed, I have to say. Of course, I know you're disappointed with COVID-19. Memphis in May was not possible this year, but I was so excited. Do you mind just sharing for a minute just the scope of Memphis in May, how long you've been with Memphis in May, and what the organization provides to this community?
Thank you for it. I'm pleased to be here today, and I wish the topic, like you, I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, that you regret the announcement of the cancellation this fall no more than I did. It was a sad situation, and in fact, and this is interesting, I'll bring it up first, Mark, that 90 days ago, we announced the postponement of the festival in May, which is really hard to believe what all's transpired in such a brief period of time. We had what we thought was going to be another record-setting festival,
right, on
early ticket sales and trends, and had no idea when we first heard news about this illness, a pandemic developing in February, that it would impact us. But in 90 days, we pivoted, rescheduled, reset for the fall.
Right.
And then just last week, after advice from the Shelby County Health Department and just the trends that are going, we're forced to cancel that. That's all
right.
in a 90-day period. So it's incredible the impact of this pandemic on everyone. And no one less, more so than Memphis in May. But to answer your question, give you a little background, I've been with the organization. I was hired in October of 1998.
Wow.
Been through 21 different festivals, 20 honored country salutes. This year was going to be the 22nd. And as you know, we had just an outstanding honoree this year.
Absolutely.
The Western African country of Ghana, who just had spectacular engagement, probably was more engaged than any country we've worked with during my tenure. And they were as disappointed as we were, but understood when it was necessary to reschedule. We've got that reset for next year in May, and looking forward to putting on a really comprehensive salute to that great country.
Jim, just the impact. Of course, all of us understand all of us understand the joy that we get in attending the Memphis in May International Festival. It really does expose you to a new country every year. Thanks to you, I got to meet some of the officials from Ghana when they were here at the previous year's event. And my family and son and daughter, my wife, we were so excited about Ghana being here this year. And again, they were so excited about being in Memphis and celebrating Ghana. But again, it's hard to believe, Jim, that I remember when you made that decision. It's been 90 days ago. I'm sure your phone lit up like a Christmas tree, because so many of us love Memphis in May. But, looking back, fortunately you made the right decision. I'm sure you had to second guess, but we're seeing some rising numbers here in Memphis right now. There's no way that you could have done Memphis in May the way we like to do it.
Absolutely.
There's no way.
There was no way it could be done. This is such a time of uncertainty at so many levels. And, I had a friend, time really of extreme uncertainty. But to think that in a 90-day period, we were planning a festival, we canceled it, we postponed it, and then canceled it. And that's the nature of what's happening with the situation right now.
The good side of this is in 2021, Memphis in May's International Festival is going to bring, it's always brought our community get together. It's brought our friends from other states. It brings international visitors to our community. What a celebration it will be in terms of the barbecue fest, the music, the culture opportunities. I mean, what an opportunity we'll have in 2021 to truly celebrate Memphis in May. And I think all of us, Jim, have a different appreciation for the little things. Well, Memphis in May is not a little thing. How many people typically come to Memphis in May, and how many people does it take to put that festival on?
Well, we've got a small but mighty staff. I have 14 employees on a year-round basis. We've got about 900 community volunteers that are very dedicated. And of course, they're sensing the loss this year.
Sure.
The first time in over 4 decades that Memphis in May hasn't occurred. We haven't had that signature city celebration that everyone looks forward to each year. And then beyond that, we'll employ a great number of area businesses that rely upon our festival event activities, whether they're a concessionaire or service provider, a tent or electrical company. And we'll employ in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 seasonal people on a part-time basis. So it's a very significant driver for employment, and then also a very significant driver in terms of economic impact. But I think that maybe what's more important and what a lot of people are missing right now
Sure.
is that Memphis in May is a very unique organization in that we drive a great deal of tourist activity through the city, because when you think of Memphis as an outsider, you think of two things. You think of music and you think of barbecue.
You do.
City's biggest music events historically held the first weekend of May, with people coming from all 50 states. And I think last year we had 26 foreign countries. And then when it comes to the barbecue and the sport of barbecue, there's nothing more prestigious than the World Championship. And you know that. You've been a judge, Mr.
I have.
And you know all the nuances involved in it. It's a very highly competitive competition. But those two events are really, along with the Mississippi River, are the three benchmarks of our city's culture and what we're known for nationally and internationally.
Well, Jim, I've met so many people over the years, thanks to you and our friends at Memphis in May. A lot of festivals try to stack themselves up against us to say, we want to be like Memphis in May. And talking with your colleagues around the country, are we basically equal to their disappointments, or is there anything differently going on in other parts of the country? Did any festivals choose to move forward even though COVID is such a threat?
Well, there are very few festivals that have indicated they're moving forward. I think that they're going to come to the conclusion ultimately that the local government, municipality, or health department will tell them no.
Yeah.
They've been dropping very rapidly. Earlier today, Bonnaroo, which was scheduled, they had set, they typically take place in June. They had moved it to September. They announced that they were canceling.
Wow.
Because it's just unsafe. And we didn't want to cancel. Our team, our staff, our board of directors really did not want to do this. But it was a situation where the health department made it abundantly clear that there's too great a risk. And, we like to have fun. We want to promote the city and we want to bring the citizens out. But first and foremost in everything we do is public safety.
Right.
And we're not going to risk, having a situation would be unsafe for our patrons, our participants, or our staff or volunteers.
Well, while this has been certainly greatly disappointing to our community, again, we can look forward to 2021 in terms of the unbelievable performers that you've been able to bring to Memphis and showcase them. I don't feel like we live as large sometimes as Nashville. But because we're a little more conservative on this side of the state, we don't fall as hard. And again, I really, really feel for what's happening in Nashville. It's become, I think, the number one destination for brides having their bachelorette, whatever it is, wedding parties. And certainly we're seeing the effects in Nashville on the entertainment industry taking a huge dive. But with your experiences with entertainers, I mean, what are the bands and entertainment companies that you typically work with? Are they just, I don't even see labels in Nashville reopening. What's happening with all the people that typically interact with you?
Well, the entertainment industry, when this thing hit, really ground to a halt.
Wow.
And there is virtually no activity. When we initially scheduled the postponement, we hustled around and contacted all the artists and said, hey, we're going to go in October. Are you good for that? And we had a commitment. I think it was 87% of the artists said, yeah, we're in. We definitely were open. We can make that work because
Right.
they were looking forward to it as well. And as the virus progressed, people started looking at the danger, and they had other events that were dropping out where the routing was falling apart. I think when we made the decision last week of the 9 headliners we had committed, initially 2 had scheduling conflicts that couldn't make it.
Right.
We were down an additional 3 artists said, we're not going to make it. And then there were some other key acts that looked at the landscape and what was taking place and the risk. And they said, we're going to take the rest of 2020 off.
Right.
So it would have been extremely difficult, even absent the concern that the health department had about bringing a large group of people together in a closed space. It would have been extremely difficult to field the level of talent that we typically present. And then
Right.
in terms of the barbecue contest, you've been a judge, you've been down there.
Sure.
The teams, aside from a fierce competition on barbecue skills and talent, it's also a very social event with the teams doing hospitality for friends and family,
Absolutely.
sponsors. And when you start looking at the implications of social distancing, it really would be impossible. The teams, we could put it together, but we'd be telling the teams, look, you got 8 members of your team. You 8 are going to be good for this space, but there can be no guests.
Wow.
And that would have been a major problem. So there was difficulties and challenges at all levels, and that'll continue to be the case. And it is why you're seeing events across the country and around the world are being canceled. It's why, the NBA's trying to do something in a bubble. It's why the Redbirds aren't going to have a season. It's why football, I know everyone wants to see football.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be incredibly challenging to bring large groups of people together. The upside on this is I can tell you that when this is over, everybody's going to want to have some social closeness. And Memphis in May is planning on next year really blowing this out because we're going to need a celebration. We're going to need to bring the community together. And we plan on just hosting one kick-ass party next May.
I think right now we don't really have a fireworks show with Memphis in May, do we?
We have fireworks historically. We don't have an event planned for this year. We're planning on some fireworks for our Great American River Run next Memorial Day weekend.
I think in Memphis in May 2021, you need to ask the county commission for a fireworks show. I think I'll be the one to sponsor it because, to your point, we need to really, really blow it out and celebrate in 2021. Again, if you're just now tuning in, we're on the chairman's perspective. I'm Mark Billingsley, chairman of the Shelby County Board of Commissioners. And today we're really honored to have a great friend, Jim Holt, who's president and CEO of Memphis in May International Festival. We certainly have talked about the realities of this and the disappointment. But I think a lot of people, when they think about 2021, there's a lot of really good things to look forward to. And again, I cannot imagine what the party and the fun will be in 2021 back in Tom Lee Park with Memphis in May. I guess, Jim, it's because I've been there for so many years. It's impossible to translate a festival online. Has anybody tried to take like the music aspect and translate that online? I don't know how. I personally don't think it would be that appealing to me, but has anybody tried it?
There are a number of people trying to do virtual events. And, when you're locked up at home and you've gone through all the shows on Netflix and so on and so forth, people are looking for options. But what we're about is bringing people together, about bringing congregation, having a group activity, sharing those experiences with friends and meeting new people. And That is incredibly difficult to do virtually. I know of some runs that have done virtual runs. It's not the same experience.
No.
Many artists doing virtual concerts, but it's watching a performance on TV. It's a very poor substitute to what everyone wants. You know, everyone's talking about social distancing. People want to have social interaction.
Well, since we're looking at the end of we're looking right now, we're almost at the end of June. At this point in your typical Memphis in May International Festival schedule, I assume, Jim, you would be wrapping up, paying bills, finishing up, cleaning up Tom Lee Park, and those type of things. When do you typically start back on planning the next festival? Is that now coming up on your calendar?
Well, we typically, like you said, June is spent on recovery, doing paperwork, reports, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And then normally right after the July 4th, I send the staff away, send the team away for about a week to get a much deserved break. By the 4th of July, we're into the next year's festival.
Wow.
Because we transitioned the Salute to Ghana from this year to next year. There's some things that we won't be doing that we normally would be doing in that time. It will just be refreshing and updating things. But then we'll be full swing into planning for next year. The challenge we have is no one knows the result, the outcome for the pandemic, how that's going to move forward, and that's going to impact everything we do.
You know, most of us don't realize the amount of detail that you have to do as an executive managing such a huge festival of thousands and thousands of visitors and guests and honorees. In terms of, since we don't understand necessarily all the responsibilities you have, how far out do artists anticipate an agreement? I mean, is that how late can you wait to book to get decent acts in Memphis?
Well, we typically we would start the booking process in July to August.
Okay.
It gets knee deep into the fall, but we're also booking as late as February because different artists will have different tour cycles and trends depending upon record releases. We've had a lot of artists reach out wanting to book next year now. Many of the acts, when we announce the cancellation, say, hey, we want to do it next year. But again, at this point, we're going to need to have some clarity and clarification on what the impact of the virus will be. And I'm really hoping, as I mentioned earlier, what's transpired in 90 days. I'm hoping we'll have some clarity in another 90 days because all too well in running the county's business that you need to have a level of certainty.
Yeah.
Planning business. And right now it's extreme uncertainty at all levels. One thing we didn't talk about, Mark, that I'd like to point out,
Please.
FMA is a nonprofit organization. We
Yes.
For the benefit of the citizens of Memphis and Shelby County. We are here to serve, to build community, to instill civic pride, and to stimulate the economy and contribute to the economic benefits, which we do very tangibly for the tourism community. Kevin Kane will be the first to tell you the impact that we have. So we're really, that was one of the reasons that we spoke to Mayor Strickland and we're looking at the fall. We're not going to cancel. We've got to postpone. We need to do this for the benefit of the hospitality industry that's hurting.
Right.
So, and that was a consideration, but we determined it was just unsafe. But one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and I'm glad to hear about your interest in fireworks because I'll be coming to talk to you and your associates on the commission later. Memphis in May exists as an independent nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. We operate on a $12 million budget. We have a very, very narrow margin because of the cost of the many programs that we put on. It's less than 1.25% margin.
Wow.
And when we have, as a result, when we have severe thunderstorms or something that impacts us,
right.
This cancellation in 2020 we're projecting that our fiscal year for 2020 will result in about a $1.7 to $1.8 million shortfall. Now, to put in perspective, the largest loss the organization has ever incurred was in 1998. The festival, the organization sustained about a $592,000 loss. So we've got a massive loss to deal with Fortunately, we've had some success in recent years. We've enjoyed great support from our local corporate community.
Sure.
Got a dedicated team, but we've been to furlough some of our staff, and we're going to have to, we're going to put on something big next year, but we're going to have to play it very careful because we've been severely wounded financially as a result of this virus, like so many businesses in the area.
Well, also, Jim, you had so much momentum going. Uh, I've got two teenagers, and they don't typically invite their parents to concerts. But this past year, my daughter Hannah invited me to Memphis in May, and we were within a few feet of Miley Cyrus performing. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you had unbelievable international coverage. Was it from Facebook?
Yes.
Uh, uh,
To my knowledge, this is the first time Facebook got involved with a festival sponsorship for that. They had a campaign that they developed.
it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It really put us on the map, and it's very concerning to hear of the $1.7 million loss, because I think if you're from Memphis and Shelby County, and if you've ever visited Memphis in May, once you bring a friend from outside of Memphis to say, "Hey, come join me at the festival this weekend," they're hooked, and they're hooked forever. And they don't really care if we have great weather, bad weather. They're there. It's, of course, won't bring up any more sad memories, but wouldn't we have had some amazing weather this year? I literally was in the front yard with my wife, and we were sitting there saying, "Oh my gosh, can you imagine this weather?" And it was the week of Memphis in May. I don't know, what was it, Jim? It would have been the barbecue fest or the music fest, but we had phenomenal weather. But again, I'm optimistic. Um, I know you've got a lot of friends that value Memphis in May. You've had great success with your corporate sponsors. I'm really hopeful the county commission and others can band around your organization and to be sure that you're there in 2021. Because again, from an economic impact, it is unbelievable. Kevin Kane, our president of the Memphis Convention Bureau, Tourism Bureau, talks all the time about what comes out of Memphis in May, and it certainly affects every hotel, every restaurant. I was on the phone a little earlier today with the National Civil Rights Museum. It is such a magnet that we only get once a year, quite frankly.
Well, that's one of the reasons that, and Kevin will tell you this, that May is such a big month for tourism here in Memphis, is because of the festival. I think our economic impact last year, and we won't be doing a study this year, obviously, but I believe it was $149 million.
Wow.
That we impacted. So it has a huge, huge positive effect on restaurants, on hotels, taxi cabs, on Uber, retail market, and it just goes on. And our incremental tax generation stemming from the events was, I believe, in the $4.7 million range. So it's a positive producer for the city and county and state at that level. So, we as a nonprofit, we don't pay tax ourselves, but we generate.
Right.
And, that loss is going to be felt with the various government agencies that are already suffering because of lack of business as a result of this pandemic. So it's going to spiral.
Because you deal with the arts so much, do you anticipate any relief from Nashville and our legislature as it relates to these festivals? I mean, certainly they've got to understand it, since our capital's in Nashville, and I've seen the losses they're suffering. Do you see any more relief in terms of COVID relief that would positively affect Memphis in May?
Well, I don't know. We enjoy support from the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, but they're being impacted by this. So,
well, sure they are. Yeah.
You want to be sensitive, because I would imagine that their revenue collection is going to be dramatically down. So those are conversations that we'll probably have a little bit later this year with them. We're going to be reaching out to all parties, because it's again, a $1.7 to $1.8 million loss is devastating. We were fortunate, Mr. Chairman, in that last year we had one of our third best year in the history of the organization. The year before that, we also had a very, very positive. So over the course of the last 5 years, we had 4 positive festivals. and generated a significant amount of money for our reserve, but we're going to spend every nickel of it.
Yes, you are. Anything new on the horizon for 2021, Jim? I know, again, right now we're all trying to deal with the adversity, but you've been so creative each and every year, and you never, even though it's a little bit of the same format. When you talk about Memphis, you're going to talk about music, you're going to talk about barbecue, but you also tend to surprise us once in a while. Anything that you might be able to share? Or you're just going to keep us hanging on until the next announcement?
Well, we just pivoted from the fall event there last week, and as I mentioned earlier, and regrettably because of the economic impact to us, I've had to furlough some staff. So we're going to be rallying here in the next few weeks to start making preliminary plans for next year. Of course, that's going to be it's going to go a little bit slow because we've got to get clarity on the virus. But we've got some things that we're excited about. One of our newer events that we've been doing now for about 5 years, the Great American River Run, which is quickly becoming one of the more popular road runs in the city of Memphis. It's a great course along the riverfront. We're going to do a lot of special things for that in 2021. It's something that I think has great potential to become one of the premier runs in the region. And I can tell you, with the absence of music and live entertainment, we're going to blow the Beale Street Music Festival out, and the barbecue cooking contest, the World Championships, the first time in 43 years it hasn't been held. So we're going to make it special next year. We're gonna the board of directors had a meeting last week, and as we said in our announcement following the meeting, we're planning on coming back bigger and better and making it stronger than ever, because people are going to they're going to want a celebration, and they're going to need a celebration when we get on the other side of this virus.
I am with you, Jim, and I tell you, on behalf of so many people that have just really, really enjoyed Memphis in May's International Festival, I have to tell you, thank you from all the citizens of Shelby County and from our Board of Commissioners. Y'all knock it out of the park. We had such a great time last year. Certainly, we all bring our own individual families, but last year the City Council and the County Commission enjoyed being down in the park together. We don't always get out of boardrooms and socialize like typical people and just talk about music and enjoy barbecue and say whose rib is better than the other person's rib. But it was really a joy. But also, I've got every belief. Memphis is so good, and Shelby County is so good about coming together in the time of difficulty. I've been a nonprofit my entire life. And have represented a number of organizations. But our donors in Memphis and Shelby County are really good to see it when we sometimes need a helping hand. And I certainly hope for you that so many of your good partners will lift up that hand this year, because if they don't, they're gonna miss out in 2021. And so
and we're going to be leaning on that this year, because it's going to be important that we have that. But we're looking forward. I'm going to count on you to come back to do the barbecue judging next year.
That's a deal.
Okay. We're excited about the fact that we're back in Tom Lee Park.
Absolutely.
People are going to want to go to Tom Lee Park and have a celebration on the river. And for almost 4.5 decades, that's what Memphis in May is about. That's what we do. So.
Well, Memphis in May is for everybody. If you're a young person, if you're a middle-aged person, it doesn't matter where you come from. If you're a senior citizen, you can find anything at Memphis in May. Great food, great barbecue, great music, wonderful Southern hospitality. To get to see so many amazing corporate sponsors that stand behind Memphis in May each and every year, and just to see that mighty Mississippi in the background. I think some of us from Memphis sometimes take it for granted, but boy, you bring friends and family down to Memphis in May, you stand next to that river, there's nothing like it.
It's a unique, and that's, I think, one of the reasons that we have attendance from all 50 states. I spoke last week to one of our barbecue judges who contacted me out in San Francisco. She's been coming for 10 years.
Right.
Loves this event, comes every year. And was commenting how she's disappointed, but certainly understands that she'll be back next year. So we have those kind of ambassadors and advocates that love our city and that have been here. And as you said earlier, once they come once, they're hooked for life.
You're hooked.
Every year.
Hey, Jim, if anybody wants to know more information about Memphis in May, www.helpmeout.
Memphisinmay.org, O-R-G.
www.memphisinmay.org. Again, our thanks to you, the president and CEO of Memphis in May International Festival, Jim Holt. I know you're about to start working on 2021. Again, my sincere best wishes to you and your staff as we all face this tough time during COVID. But we'll see you soon, and we look forward to Memphis in May 2021.
We're going to make it a big, big celebration next year. Thank you very much for all you do, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Count on us for the fireworks.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Stay